Student cabinet report. Student cabinet report, we continued working on discussing and brainstorming on with the now New York State required change of mascots, of what would be good working with the students. They went through, they modified, we had things. It was really neat because we'd get so far, then we'd go all the way back and go and change it. Groups, we stayed with the same 4 groups, and I'll go over all this in detail with the board during the district planning conference. We did have in there where there's going to be a mascot vote, and after we get the mascot, then another vote on picking the logo for the mascot.
So the name.
So first we'll get the name of what it wants to be, because like say currently we're the Chiefs, so it'd be selecting a new name for Chiefs, and then if we pick, I don't want to lead anyone down any path, the new chief, we'll say, but it can't be chief. Bottle of water. Then they would submit, that's select, now we advertise that out, go through a timeline in a second, and now people can draw logos for that symbol.
And it's open to everyone in the community?
So with that, that was a discussion we had. So in this, for ideas, and we had different numbers before today, for putting ideas in for a mascot, we said all groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, which would be students 5 through 12, community, admin, teacher, staff, coaches, trainers, and Board of Ed. Those are the groups. For ideas for the vote, for the mascot, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, and that would actually be for both votes. We'd open it up to everyone. And we talked about the form we'd be doing that in. In the process, they wanted to do it on Forms, which is Microsoft. We can put a link on our webpage. Then access upon request for paper. So if someone felt they couldn't do forms, and they could write the school or call the school, and then we could send them out. We discussed forms too. We went into that a little bit. Dr. Dudek will help me here if I get off on it, because we talked about, well, is there a possibility for someone doing something twice or voting twice? And we said, well, there's always that possibility if you use multiple computers and change IEPs, and you can do it. But they said with this, they felt there'd be such a small possibility, and that if someone did it, it wouldn't skew the data. So they're going to recommend, I'll put in my recommendation, if I keep with that would be worth it. They thought everyone should just get one vote, but they also felt that people could do it. I think it was optional for saying who you were with this, but we'd have to track IEPs or something like that. So I'll work with Dr. Dudek. So don't quote me on that one. It's like I have notes all over the place because literally it was the meeting today. And then let's see what else was. So everyone, and then for the logo would be the same thing, where everyone could participate in that and have input on it. The process, we went through a process of doing the different votes, kind of is covered in the timeline, which was new. And this is a rough timeline because we weren't really looking at a calendar. So these are general dates. We'd start in September with information going out with the norming meetings to the students and any parent meeting that's happening, and on the Monday messages. I don't have it written down here, but of course it'd be on our web page and things like that. It'd probably be a good idea to put an ad in the newspaper where they could find it, of where to get the information, to get everyone pointed in the right direction of what's going to happen, which would have all the timeline and different processes there. Then in October is where it would be the month of October for submitting ideas. People have a whole month to submit ideas. Beginning in November, 1 through 7 is where the administrators will review the ideas to make sure they hit our non-negotiables. Appropriate, not a duplicate in New York State, single design, a simple single design, because we talked about how it would look in color, black and white, and they said, we talk about mascots, because if you look at a lot of people, they draw a mascot, and then you see another version of it and another version of it. And they said, we really had a long conversation on this. They said, no, there's one. This is what's used for everyone. You might make it bigger, you might make it smaller, but this is the one you use. Same thing with colors. Here's the colors you use. Don't have multiple ones out there, because we looked at the current one we have now where one has 2 feathers, one has 4. There's a single one that's used everywhere. That's it, period. And again, this will all be presented much better format to the board during the district planning conference in July. So that's where they're submitting ideas, administrative review. Then they would have a committee. once they got anything that's inappropriate or anything from the administrators, of saying, these are the top 25 from this committee. So we'll actually have to have, part of this is having people come to a committee and volunteering to be on that committee. After the committee looks at it, they'll present the top 25. There'll be presentations of that through the end of November 16th through the 30th, and then December 1 through 14th would be the first vote. December 15th to 17th, we'd be presenting and talking about what is the top 5, and then there'd be a second vote at the end of December through January 3rd. We specifically picked January 3rd because that's 2 days after coming back from break, so we can make sure the reminders are going out from people on vacation for the second vote, and on 4th, we would know what the new mascot name would be. From there, in the January, for the month of January, submitting designs for that new name, new mascot. And then February 1st and 2nd, they gave a much tighter time frame here for this, of reviewing those pictures to make sure there's nothing inappropriate in any of the pictures. And then it looks like the 3rd through the 11th, we would advertise of what those were. Again, it'd be the top 25. Would there be the first vote? We narrow it down to 5. In beginning of March, 4th through 7th approximately, we'd make people aware of that. And then March 11th through the 25th would be the second vote, again, 2 weeks for voting. And then March 26th, we could announce it. March 26th might be a Sunday or something, so we might have to tweak that day of when we're announcing it, but then it'd be nice to be a Monday message. They could do it for students coming back, I'm thinking. And then, because that's happening in March, we know where it is. That gives us time in April to get contractors in place to redo any of the floors or anything that need to be done of where current logos are. And then we can move forward. So with their timeline, we would be starting on it the 24-25 school year. Those people will be graduating under the new name, or not under the new name, that implies Iroquois, under the new mascot and logo.
I have a question that just popped into my head. During this time, while we're making this transition, are we still going to be known as Iroquois Chiefs until the new name is selected, or do we cease being chiefs as of the board voting on the resolution?
We would still be using it because we're saying that we commit to changing. It's not saying we are changed. So the way I understand it, the way it's been communicated to, and that's some of the clarification I'm double, triple, quadruple checking on, is the class of 2024 would be the last one under the current way we're doing anything.
So even though we would know the new name and the logo by the end of the school year, the current junior class would still be graduating as Iroquois Chiefs?
Correct.
And we will use Iroquois Chiefs throughout the school year?
Yeah. And I know there's been a big rush for people buying things right now, but as we design things and buy new clothing, I don't want duplicate costs for the taxpayers. We will be just putting like Iroquois on it for the newer stuff we're buying for that reason. I saw one gentleman in here tonight with the pledge where he had feathers on his shirt for Marilla. Those things we wouldn't be doing anymore because it'd be nice for people to have clothing that they start buying that they can keep wearing for a long period of time. Now, granted, the state did change that at events outside school sporting events, if you had old stuff, you could still wear it, so we don't have to monitor that. So the SROs are probably happy they don't have to check for what people are wearing coming in at events. But we're going to start moving forward with that. But during the day, that when at school, that would be something different because it's not we changed, wink, wink. We can still do the old stuff. It's we have changed. This is the new identity.
And new stuff like for football, because the climb is the acronym we use. There's going to be like our logo will just be a mountain with the climb on it and Iroquois, just for that reason, because we didn't want to do a whole bunch of stuff with the chief on it, have everyone buy it, and then in theory, it'd be gone.
Yeah, I know that I will be having a new red wardrobe in my house because everything I have seems to have a male figurehead on it. So, and that's okay. I probably should be buying new clothes anyways.
And Doug, the Regents letter implies that it's not the name but did we,
Haven't finished on finding that through. What I've been
Okay.
doing is getting, actually, I got a couple more today and talking to people, questions to clarify.
so we're
Um,
just want it in writing, not implied in a letter that
Yeah.
our school name
Yep.
is
And actually,
staying.
the state, Friday, I just found out, I had been talking to a Miss Coghlan's there, and she has actually moved into a different position, so there's a new person I'm going to be talking to. Now, she's moved up in ranks, so I'm sure anything she said, and knowing her, the person that's in the position below her will be saying the same thing, but this is a good, that actually just found that out Friday. So that'll be a good person for me to reach out. Our liaison in our area is Dr. O'Rourke, so I've already talked to him about reaching out, so he's going to be CC'd. I did that Friday with him.
Okay.
Oh, and forms, I didn't talk about forms. We talked about as people submit things, that's where it was. We're optional for the names on forms when you're submitting ideas. We said you can just submit it. We're going to put an optional spot on there for reasons for the name. So if you want to add a little more gusto, that they felt it shouldn't be required, but that it should be optional. Again, board can change this. And we should also have on there a list of things that are non-negotiable, and then do the same thing as the design, just so people are aware that if you do this on it, it will not be looked at, it will be stopped at administration, and that's it. So you won't even get people won't even get the laugh of, if you think it is funny, which it probably won't be if we're getting rid of it, of anyone seeing it other than maybe one administrator or two, and it's out. But any idea will be gone through as long as it's appropriate.
So can I ask, because we have to have the resolution in place by end of June 30th.
Yeah, it'll be a June
So at
meeting.
the next board meeting, are we approving that resolution, or are we going to have a,
It'll be a
different meeting?
resolution I put forward to the board. You'll see it ahead of time before the
Okay.
June meeting. And therefore, that's where, under consensus agenda, if you wish to modify or change any of it, you can.
Okay.
But it'll be really straightforward. It'll say, Superintendent recommends the Board of Education to approve following the new regulation, whatever number it is, of the New York State Education Department and its commitments to change its logo and mascot by the appropriate time frame.
Okay.
They ask me in an hour from now, I'll give you a different resolution, say just about the same thing.
I did get an interesting question from the public, a member, about because if we don't adopt this resolution, that the superintendent and the Board of Education will all be fired.
Yes,
And whether or not the Board of Regents has the ability to do that.
they
Answer
absolutely
right.
have the
They do?
ability, they have
Okay.
done it, and.
I said I would ask.
Yep,
Okay.
oh, yeah. So,
Have they ever, in the past, ever tried to make a state change that said that we're going to fire everyone unless you comply? Because they didn't even do that with the masks, really. They said no state funding, but is this the first time that they've ever?
It was mostly monetary threats.
mostly monetary, but there was one school district in our Western New York area that did make a resolution and say something. It wasn't about masks, it was about something else, I can't remember, and they went in there and said, if you don't retract and go in this direction, everyone will be removed. So they have gone in and done that. I'm trying to remember if they've actually followed through. I know they've removed individual board members, but never a complete board that I can recall, but they have removed members of the Board of Education.
Okay, thank you.
And for me, they probably wouldn't remove me, they'd probably just pull my license, and that way I'm unable to be employed because I don't have a license anymore, so that's an easy workaround for me. You laugh, but yeah, I already know how I plan to get rid of me. All right,